Hey, Basic here. We got the budget bike back up on the repair stand. Unfortunately, some bad things happened. Those with a keen eye might have noticed during the rear shock install, the chain guide was missing, and that's because it broke. Unfortunately, this thing is plastic, and the little clamp ring that goes around the seat tube snapped right along the back side. I did try to super glue it back together, but that went about as well as probably anyone would have expected. So this thing is toast. My first thought was, well, do I really need this thing? And to be clear, this broke before I put the new shock on, so there is no correlation there. However, since riding with the new shock, I have dropped one chain and I've only ridden probably about 10 miles. And I think that's because with more rear wheel travel, you're more likely to drop a chain. And here's why. When you were a kid, did you ever flick a piece of string or rope and you see that wave that kind of goes down? The same thing happens here. When your rear wheel hits a bump and goes up, you get kind of a shock wave that travels down the chain towards your chain ring. As again, this goes up, the wave goes forward, and it knocks it off the chain ring. Normally, with this guide right here, it sits right about there, and any shock wave going down the chain is then stopped by this chain guide. So I'm not quite sure if I'm going to replace this yet. I'm going to ride the bike some more, and if I keep dropping chains, I will get a new one. So stay tuned, and I'll follow up on this. In other news, I had a little issue with the brakes. The way that this was routed from the factory, this cable here was actually behind these two, and it went on the back side of the fork. As you can see, the fork has a little guide hole for this brake line. And what was happening is, with this routing behind the fork, the brake cable was rubbing up against the head tube. The logo here is actually a sticker, so there was no damage to the paint. But if you wanted to remove this sticker, it would have definitely damaged that paint and that finish, which would not be good. So what I did was I rerouted it to not only go in front of these cables, but I also changed it to not use this little tube right here. Instead, I use a zip tie. There is a little hole. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little hole on the back side of this bridge on your fork. And you can put a zip tie through that little hole, and it's not gonna slide up this bridge and around. You might think that, well, this isn't any good, it's just gonna move. Nope. Perfectly secure, not going anywhere. It doesn't touch the tire. It's totally safe right there, and you're not gonna have any issues with damaging your paint up here. In other brake news, because these are cable-driven brakes, they're not hydraulic, cables stretch, especially when you're braking hard, you're pulling on these brake levers really hard. The brake cables inside of these tubes, they're gonna get a little bit longer because they're simply steel. And what happens is the brake lever will go further and further and further in to the point where eventually they might actually hit your hand and the brakes don't work very well. To solve that, you have these little adjustment screws right here, but these only go out so far. So what I've had to do is go back and retune my brakes. That was episode 3. I will try and put a link somewhere if I can figure out how all that YouTube stuff works. But that is normal for these brakes, and this will be the third time I've had to tune the brakes from the cable stretching. Hopefully they're just about fully stretched out and I won't need to do it again. But if I do need to, I will let you know. And I'm also thinking about trying to find some hydraulic brakes. That would make this bike so much better. So yeah, short video today. That's really all I got for you. Thanks for watching and have a great day.